Hello everyone and welcome back to the Green Man channel. I'm excited today to be reviewing the new Dvne album, or Dvne. I still haven't figured out how you correctly say their name, but they have released a new album called Etemen Ænka, I think. My Latin's not too good either. And they have released this album via Metal Blade Records just yesterday. The album is 1 hour 7 minutes in length and it is 10 tracks. And this is another really good progressive metal album that I happen to be reviewing. Metal Blade Records seem to be on a bit of a roll. I have noticed in recent years, actually, that this label seems to release albums from these really impressive up-and-coming metal bands, and Dvne, I think, are one of these for sure. I think this is their sophomore album, follows Asphodel, which was an album I enjoyed, must have been about 4 or 5 years ago now. And this band are a really, really, clearly this second album, I think, from listening to it today and a bit yesterday, I think this could be even better than Asphodel was. I liked Asphodel a lot. And I think this album is another step up. And it shows that they're kind of mastering their styles and their technique, I think, even more. So kind of track by track, what did I make of each track on this album and the journey that we had for, just over an hour long? The opening track was really good introduction, lots of nice groove going on there. Number 2, Towers. This was where the album for me really started to take its grip, take its hold on you as the listener. There was a really, really cool passage towards the end of this track using phases, but just using phases in of itself isn't necessarily, anything new, perhaps, but the way they mixed in the phases in this track, I loved, and fit the rhythms absolutely perfectly. One of my favourite parts of this album, I would say, as well. Core to the Matriarch, that was an absolute belter of a track. I loved it. Kind of ominous, clean and moody to begin with, but then it transitions into the heavy parts, and you kind of get a really nice atmospheric section, kind of 2.5 minutes-ish into the track, with a great melodic hook, I thought. And the use of keys is a feature of this album on occasions, which I think also gives it a sort of slightly electronic vibe. Certainly gives it a proggy, an even more proggy feel. I really liked, I think, after Weighing of the Heart was the only track that perhaps I sort of wasn't as big on, although it all contributes to the overall feel of the album, and this was kind of felt like more of an interval type track, and there were a couple of those on this album which I'll talk about later as well. Omega Severa was possibly next to Court of the Matriarch my favourite on this album, and it's partly because there was a moment perhaps about 4 minutes into this track that completely just made me think, oh wow, that's the kind of moment in an album that, as a metal listener and as a loving to hear sort of nuanced things in music, this was a little section, almost a momentary thing in this song, which I just thought, hang on, what was that? That was absolutely, that was brilliant. That was seriously good musicianship, or, production, all of it put together. I think it was that 4-minute point in, and it's like suddenly the music almost comes to a stop, but it lingers on slightly by this single note, which comes about 3 times, I think, in rapid fashion. It's like dun dun dun, and then the music goes back into its rhythms again. And I thought that was just a phenomenal part of that song, which I had to point out here. I don't know exactly. My musical theory isn't great. I know a little bit, but if anyone wants to elaborate on that section more, I would really welcome that. That was an absolutely awesome moment in this track and in this album as a whole. And the album really let up, I thought. There was Going to track 6 was another interval track, but I thought this one worked really well as a build-up into track 7, into side 14 again. I have no idea how you say that first word there. But yeah, another really good track. That was also, I think, released as a single before the album came out yesterday. Ænka, track 8. I got a bit of a tall 10,000 Days vibe at times in this album with the cleaner sections, but not to take away, this was another really good, really solid track. Asphodel is another nice sort of, again, a slightly atmospheric type track, and a nice sort of a very sort of brief use of this in this album, but there was some feminine vocals that came in towards the end of this track, and I thought in a way that might have actually been worth using in other parts of this album as well. Not sure, but it felt like it was just in Asphodel that was used. And the final track, a very good finale and a good ending to what I think is a very strong album. And I just want to sort of obviously compliment the band and compliment Metal Blade as well. I think it's just another really good album from them, as I said at the very beginning of the video. So what would I say? What would I give this album? What to score it? I think this is going to be, and I think this still has potential to grow on me. So that's a sign that this is a pretty damn good album that we've got here. And a part of me wants to be tentative, and sort of a bit reserved, just to give the album some room to grow, because as I say, I've only been listening to it a bit since yesterday. I'm going to give it an 8.5, and that's kind of slightly revisable upwards, I think, or downwards, but I think 8.5 would be about right for me. I think this is a seriously good album, and another good one from Metal Blade. And I think it was the Iton album I reviewed 3 weeks ago, and this is kind of makes me think that progressive metal is in a really healthy place at the moment, and this is just another reason to say that, this album. So congratulations to this band on an epic release, and I'll see you guys later. I'm going to be doing a couple more videos this weekend, including another of the Random Picks series, which I must admit I'm quite enjoy doing, and I don't know about anyone else, probably not, but I'm quite liking doing those. So I'll see you next time. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your weekend.